Okay, I think we're live.
Okay.
So, welcome, Kimberly. I'm so happy to have you here with Coffee Talk. I
Hi.
was looking through the thread that we had on Messenger, like way back. The first time I ever talked to you was when you were going to choose the 3-day body class with Shannon O'Hara. Do you
Oh my
remember?
goodness, this was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's like 3 years ago or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And at that point, you were in California.
Yeah.
So, where are you now?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee now,
Wow.
which I would have never thought that 3 years ago. I would have told you that would have never happened. And how funny, because 3 years ago, I wanted to choose the body class and I didn't choose it. And I'm
Mhm.
sure it was because I didn't think I had the money. It was a
Mhm.
money thing.
Mhm.
And I did my first body class about 18 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And how funny, when I did that body class, it was in Florida with Amy Shine. My world ripped right open and I started choosing much different things.
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, those body classes are quite amazing.
they are. That after that, I took another body class within 4 months. Like my body was like, oh my goodness. And, in actually Chattanooga. So how funny. Yeah.
That's
Well,
awesome.
that's 3 years ago. That's funny.
Yeah, so a lot has changed. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, a lot has changed, especially 3 years ago. I really bought into there would be no way I could ever take classes and access. Like, oh my goodness, like how would that actually really happen? Until I made the demand. I'm having that, like I'm going to that class no matter what. I really found out that's when it hit me. Money really wasn't the issue. It was, what was I going to choose?
Mm-hmm.
Was I choosing for me?
Mm-hmm. And so you started and money just showed up magically, or what happened?
Actually, it did. And when I left California, I started working remote for the company that I worked for in California. And I actually took a pay cut. And I definitely thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it. And the minute I took the pay cut and left California and I committed to my life, I committed to me, like all the adult children were good. Everybody was partnered up. Mom could leave and go take care of her. Everything opened up for me. My business opened up for me. The space of me opened up for me when I committed to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yay. So yeah,
Hey,
that thing that so many people are like at the edge of the cliff and they're like, I don't know what's going to happen on the other side, so I think I'll just stay back here in what's known.
right. And in that comfort zone, like when I got out of the comfort zone, and really what I saw was I was disempowering me
Mm,
by not choosing and staying in that little space where I could control it. And because when I get out of my comfort zone, it's uncontrollable. I'm out of control. And,
right.
how many of us are waiting for I used to say, like, okay, I want to know what's going to happen so I could be prepared. How many of us are waiting to be prepared? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's drilled into us from childhood.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
prepared.
Like, well, and how many of us grew up with like, it's all on the calendar, what's going to happen? Like the whole week was planned out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't
That,
leave any space for magical possibilities, that's for sure.
yeah. Instead of asking, like, does that work for us? Even though we make plans, but I still check in now, like, hey, does that work? I mean, well, even you and I had this scheduled a few weeks ago and something came up and I was able, hey, this doesn't work. Can we change it? And how much do we not even do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I learned a long time ago that when you do that, it usually doesn't work for the other person either. So being willing to be the first person to say, hey, can we change this?
Right.
It, you know, or people who are late to an appointment.
Yeah.
So many times, if I was late, because I'm one of those people that likes to be on time. If I was ever late because of traffic or whatever, the doctor or the whatever appointment was always late too. And so it always worked out.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
did.
that's so cool. I
Yeah.
know I was really glad that you changed it because it didn't work for me either.
Isn't that funny? But But like the one, how much do we buy into like we're going to be judged for changing it? Like, what is that going to look like when we change it? And that's the gift of following the energy. Like that's one of the other things that really changed dynamically for me when I moved to Nashville, because I actually thought we were going to move to North Carolina, but I kept going in the question instead of concluding, and the energy shifted for Nashville, and I was willing to follow that. And when we did that, like so much has changed when I'm following the energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. And who's we?
My partner, my husband. And so he was leaving a 29-year career and, doing something different. And it was being willing to get out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Like how, and I didn't know anyone in Nashville, like
Mm-hmm.
to really get out of the box. And what would that look like? And asking the question, will this create greater? And everything lit up in my world. And I was like, oh, it's going to create greater. But that greater had no like reference point for me. And the other thing for me too was, okay, what did it look like? Even though my children are 21, 28 and 29, I was so used to being there for them, to be available. What was I going to look like as a mother? Like,
Yeah. Wow. You can feel all the judgment loaded there.
right.
Hawk
Like
and pod.
pock and pod, all that. And
You're just
almost
a phone call away.
I am. And what's funny is like, I remember not apologizing for it. And then I felt bad for not apologizing. I was like, I'm not going to ask your permission for me to go live my life. But how much do we do that? Like that image of like being a mom and when my daughter had cancer when she was younger. And then so being defined as the mother with the daughter that's in remission and what you're supposed to be and like to be available. And actually she's grown more that I got out of the way and left the state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I've grown more that I've left the state. Like, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's really a wonderful gift to be able to empower your children to know that they can stand and create their own lives.
Yes.
Yeah. And let go and create yours.
Yes. And I got to see how much I was disempowering them. And so like even something came up with my youngest daughter a few days ago. She actually called. Normally everything's done via text. She's 21. So everything's normally done text message.
Right.
And I had to do two things. When she was calling, I had to ask myself, truth, am I looking to empower or disempower? And that's going to check me real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm always here to empower. Like truly, that is my agenda. It's like, but when you get in with like that reactive reality with your children, there's a reaction that comes up. And I was like, okay, no, if I'm looking to empower, it's best I keep my mouth shut most of the time. And so, and how much do we disempower ourselves with not choosing? Like that's been up in my world a lot lately. Mm-hmm. And what energy do I come into a situation with? Like I had something come up where I thought I was perceiving that there was a lot of judgment coming my way. But really I had a beautiful conversation with someone over the weekend and they asked me, well, what is the energy you're putting out? And my energy was playing very small. Like I wasn't liked. I wasn't welcomed. And so I came in like a little ant for you to step on. And so how much do we do that? And then we disempower ourselves going, oh, see, I told you so. It didn't work. I'm not welcomed. And it's not even true. It's the lie.
Right. We take ourselves out before anybody else can.
Yeah. And I saw that. I was like, oh my goodness. And I've been doing that since I was a child.
Of course. Like who hasn't?
Right.
I mean, I don't even think that the bullies are not running that underneath, Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I've been running the clearing what energy, space, consciousness, and choice can I be to be the ever expanding being I truly desire. Because I know this lesser being thing is something that is up, and we're like, the fact that we're even aware of it is awesome. Like that takes a huge amount of growth and awareness. So what can we do to choose beyond that?
Well, absolutely. And then where it's been my coping mechanism. I mean, so how much has that stopped me from getting out of the comfort zone?
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, that has been my coping mechanism. I was like, oh my goodness, like I've really, and how much we use it in every area.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah. So it is like that was like, and you know, what's funny is I think when we have a conversation with someone, it's when you're willing to receive the information. We're to get honest with ourselves, but how much we disempower ourselves and functioning from the lesser being.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, yeah. But you know, but that's for like doing that tool of like pulling in energy in the morning. Like how do you start your day? I think that's what really for me contributes in my world is how do I start my day? Do I start my day with that I'm, you know, miraculous and phenomenal and pulling in that energy of what I would like truly my life to be? Or do I start my day with it's a manic Monday and, you know, Mondays suck? I mean, like, how did you start your Monday?
Well, this is one of the reasons why I created Coffee Talk on a Monday.
Okay.
I've never had the Monday blues though myself, because I've always done something that well, not always, like, you know, right after college, I worked for another company, but I've had my own business for 35 years and it's something that I love.
Awesome.
So I'm like, it's just another day. The weekend is a day, every weekday is a day, and I get to play with jewels and sparkling and energy. And how does it get better?
Yeah. And so that's awesome. Like, right. You get to do everything that brings you joy and playing with jewels and stuff. And you know, I have many things. I have my own business, but then I work for a mental health, drug and alcohol rehab. Mondays are wild in the rehab world.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're still aware of everybody else's Monday stuff.
Yeah. And how much, and there, like you just said, that how much are we aware of other people's stuff that we buy as ours? And I did that before Access daily. That's what I bought. Like I did not have all that freedom and space and how aware I was.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And when it doesn't go away, it's not yours.
Yes. But you have to remind yourself, you know, like an hour
Yes.
into it when it's not going away.
Yes. Yes. I had that last night. Like I think I went to sleep around, I don't know, 11:30, and I was still awake at 2, and there was just stuff. And I'm like, okay, you know, what else can I listen to? I put on a couple of different calls that I was on. And then I started running the demon clearing, and that worked. That I was able to fall asleep. So sometimes you're just aware of this stuff. I knew it wasn't mine, but you know,
But it's still there.
it's
Right.
still there. It's still noisy.
Yeah.
It's like next door or whatever. But
Yeah.
you can't change it. You just have to be the space and be an allowance, and you know, try to put your energy somewhere else.
Well, and for me at nighttime, the demon clearing is always like, there's one of my go-tos. And one of my other go-tos at night is like, everything is the opposite what appears to be. Nothing is the opposite what appears to be. And sometimes I could get to like 25 times of saying that to myself that will help shift the energy.
Mm-hmm.
But the demon clearing, like that is always my biggest go-to at night, because that tends to be where my awareness will be much more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And moving to Nashville, I have dealt with way more entities and demons than I have ever. Like I had to take a class. I had to like educate myself because I was struggling. There was so much happening.
That is so interesting. Why do you suppose that is?
Well, you know, you look at, you know, everything that's happened here. Like there's the Civil War. There was so much, like there's a lot of dents in
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
There is a lot. And then we have a park behind us and they're doing construction. So they kept going in and underground, blowing up to expand space. Well, every time they would go, and that's been happening since we moved here, there's a lot of like smoke entities really come into my house. I have a lot of that.
Mm.
And my husband, who does not do access, just the other night came in, he's like, Kim, are you smoking? I go, I haven't smoked in 12 years. And he goes, the whole house reeks of cigarettes. And I was like, oh, he's like, can you do your thing? Can you, like, you need to do your thing. Or he'll say, can you get rid of your friends? He'll be like, your friends are in the house. Can you get your friends out? I was like,
That's
yeah.
awesome. I
Isn't
love
that
that.
awesome? I love that. He's like, can you do your thing?
I'm not going to be empowered to do it, but you can.
No, can you?
That's
Well,
hysterical.
yeah. Well, and then so how many people are in our lives that want us to do it instead of empowering them?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. When it comes to entities and demons, I am more than happy to go clear that and not wait for you to choose it.
Yeah.
And
And then you can just ask the entities to pay you. And so,
yeah.
yeah.
And I do ask that a lot.
Yeah. It's interesting how, like, I've just noticed how resistant people are to learning the tools of dealing with entities, but
Yeah.
like that class has given me so much more peace in my body and in my world than almost, and like it's like the body classes too. It's crazy because so much of the things that are going on are entity related that people have no idea. And it can be so easy to change it.
Absolutely. And I get that when, you know, especially dealing with people with dealing with mental health, like,
Yeah.
you can get that really speaking with someone that can say that, you know, hey, I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, right? And you could just perceive their world. And sometimes I will just ask those questions. I just like, hey,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question before? Sure, I'm going to say some really crazy things, but just let me play for a second, like to see. And so much. And you know what, for me, I had no idea the things that were popping in my body was entities. Like that, all of a sudden you're good. And then I will get an intense headache. Like it's quick, it's instant. Or for some reason, it's my left or right shoulder. Something will pop real quick. And I learned that on airplanes. That is a really great, flying on airplanes and having people that close to you.
Yeah.
Having those tools, that saved my life. Like that changed, it was a game changer.
Yeah. Entities and airplanes is a big thing. And I forget that sometimes, but there was a plane that I was taking to Europe. I'm not sure if it was for Maestro or the Talk to the Entities CF training. And, you know, it was at night. So it was delayed like 45 minutes. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I'm like, oh, and I ran entity clearing and demon clearing. And then literally a minute later, they're like, okay, we can board now. And it's like, shit, why didn't I remember that sooner? You know?
It's, you know what? Yes. And I had to do that a lot when I went to South Africa in January. All those different planes and all the different airports, like you're in all these airports, the entities. Yeah, it has been definitely interesting and not being in resistance.
Yeah. And like they don't want to be stuck. So it's like you're giving a gift. It's so easy. If people only knew. It is so easy. It's not like the movies.
It's not Ghost.
Yeah. And it's yeah, what did I want to say? Oh God, I forgot. There was something, but I forgot.
Well, let's talk about this. Actually, you and I started to talk about it before we hit record. We were talking about aging, and it's something that come up in my world.
That was one thing. And I was working on a lady doing a facelift, energetic facelift, and she got a series with me. And on this particular day, I started working on her and she's like, oh, I have a migraine. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I looked up the migraine process, and that is a process with inculcated entities that you run. And I forgot about that. I normally think of migraines as where you're turning your energy in against yourself, and that's usually a lot of it. But when you clear the inculcated entities and then do some other processes, it totally changes.
Nice. That's a good one for me to keep in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the aging thing, yes. Oh
Yeah,
my
the
God,
eight.
how many presumptive realities do we have about that?
Uh-huh. Yep. A megaton. Yeah, I actually, because we were talking about coming off of Global Foundation, that everything I touch, it's like it's been cutting my skin, like my hands. I even burned myself pretty bad day 2 of Global Foundation. And my skin, it even has taken longer to heal. And I'm running body processes. And I went to, for a moment, I'm like, aging, right? Because at that age, whatever that number is you have, like your skin gets thin. We were talking about thin skin. And I was like, oh, and everything that is, can we destroy and create that? Pock and pod. I was like, yeah, aging. Like, how much does that all get up right in your craw?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And, you know, if you have to age like your parents did.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, my mom is amazing. She's 87 and she's like 60. You know, she's super energetic and, you know, but when she drinks, she turns into somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, I have a mom like that.
yeah. Like, oh, this other being comes in. It's like, oh, I don't think I want to talk to that one.
Yeah, you know, and that's okay, right? Like, and just to be aware of that. But like my mom, I think she's 77. She's somewhere in there. She has phenomenal energy. That's a woman that will climb on top of a roof of a house. Like, this is a woman that has tons of energy. Um, but you know, I see like how her family ages. And I used to think, in fact, I could even say it, like my aunts have certain arms.
Yeah.
And I would be like judging the arms until then the arms showed up on me. I'm like, of course, because what you judge, girl, is going to show up like you've been it or done it. And so not to compare myself. And I love that body process, the BMM.
Yep.
Yep. And, you know, everywhere we buy into or whatever diagnosis family members, how many people are like, oh, well, my grandfather had diabetes, so therefore I'm going to have it. I've been seeing people with that more and more lately. And then they already just presumed I'm going to have it. And it shows up very early.
Right.
And what you tell yourself is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What you tell your body. And so what about like the hidden things of me telling myself aging? Like, that's been a thing that I've really been dealing with in Access, like aging. And actually I look younger now than I started almost 4 years ago in Access. Like, we actually look much different. I mean, if you're using the tools of Access and you're playing in the body processes and running bars and facelift and all the other yummy stuff and clearing those entities, like, you're going to look yummy.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. Oh God, my brain, it's like everything's just going. What was I just gonna say? Oh my goodness. I'm out to lunch today.
What's that? You know, it's
well,
it's spring.
The thing about, you know, judging the arms or the whatever of your parents or grandparents, this came up, I think it was a couple years ago at the global facelift class. And I said something and the person working with me was like, wait a second, is that your judgment of them or is that their judgment of themselves that you were aware of? And I was like, oh my God, that energy like changed so much more because we always think that it's our judgment and then we pock and pub, but it doesn't change because it wasn't actually our judgment. It was their judgment of themselves. Yeah. There. You can already feel it like,
that opens this. Yes.
Prophets and beyonds.
And you know what, that's such a beautiful gift because how much, I mean, I did that most of my life, buying into all these judgments of me that I was so aware of others and thinking that I was in the wrongness of me all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
Yep. One really easy way to know how you are with you is to just be by yourself in nature or whatever. And there is no judgment. You're just like, wow. You're happy,
Yeah.
you're enjoying. You don't like go, oh, look at this thing or look at that, or,
Right.
I'm this, I'm that. It's just space and enjoyment.
It's so funny that you say that, because when I moved here, I left the ocean, and I've always been an ocean girl.
Mm,
And I have found so much nurturing in nature here with the trees. There's so much lush here, and the green and the trees. And when I am in nature, like, there is where the oneness, and it's expansive. Like,
that's good.
there, yeah. And you're right. There, you're so correct on. I am not walking through nature going, hey girl, let's talk about your stomach.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those arms.
Yeah,
Like,
totally. Your haircut or whatever. And you have to look at, when does that kick in? Who are you around when that kicks in?
yeah.
And so that's not your judgment of you. That's your awareness of either them judging themselves or them being aware of other people judging themselves.
Yeah.
So really, who does it belong to? And it doesn't even matter. It's just not yours. Pock and Pod, return to sender.
Well, and I love that question on what energy space consciousness can I be, to be who does this belong to, and return to sender with ease. Pock and Pod, like, that is a great one to say to yourself every day, especially if you're going into the office. Like, if you work with people or you're engaging with anyone, like, you go into the coffee shop,
Yeah.
go into the grocery store, like, there's just, no matter what, but like, especially with working with other people, and like, and I love that one. Who does this belong to, and return to sender with ease? Like, hey.
Yeah.
And there's even an app.
Yeah, exactly. It's also really helpful to travel or to move, to do something different, because you're so aware of your surroundings where you live, but when you go somewhere else, it doesn't feel the same. And so you don't buy it as yours.
Yeah.
So I noticed a long time ago, when I started traveling to different access classes and all the judgments in different areas, and how different areas had certain energies to them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, that's not mine. Like, it was just so foreign.
Yeah.
So it is helpful to do that. And then just recognize anytime you're not feeling light and happy and spacious, it's not yours.
It's not yours.
Oops.
It is not yours. Yeah. How does it get any better than that? Yeah.
We're
Hey.
used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
So another thing that's really helpful with the aging thing is running the facelift. And I just love the facelift. I've been working with it for almost 20 years now. And I even just put my hands on my own body every night, and I run facelift. And I love that sense of when it first runs. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And it's getting more and more potent the more energies they add to it.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting. I love the facelift. That is one of my favorite little yummy energies to play in. But you know what? I haven't run the facelift on myself in a long time. Like, so I'm so glad you said that. It's so, because that's what's funny. Like, here we have all these tools.
Yeah.
No, didn't think to run that one. So I'm going to do that tonight. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
take a
you
little
can
lunch
do it
break.
on your stomach, you can do it on your chest, you can do it on your face, you can do it on bruises, because it has so many different energies. It's got MTVSS in it and cellular memory, that it really takes care of a lot.
What a great tool. You run the facelift. And if you don't know the facelift, find a practitioner and get it done. Get into a class, a facilitator. I mean, I love, that would be fun. Thank you, Julie. I'm going to do the facelift button.
Yeah, and they've just updated it. So if you haven't taken a class recently, it's now got new energies in it. So find a class.
Find a class.
Yeah. Well, it's been so nice chatting with you.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. And and how fun, like, we can do this. This is so fun. And that's the gift of having a conversation. there's an awareness that comes up like, oh, I can do that. I can choose this. I can choose that. I can run the facelift on myself at night if I got some stuff with aging.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
Yes. Hey,
Yeah,
well, thank you.
better. Yeah. And yeah, are you a CF? Do you
I
facilitate?
am. I am
Do
a
you have
CF.
anything
I
coming
became
up?
one. I have, you know what? I'm traveling in April. I'll be in Texas for a
Mhm.
couple weeks. So if you know anyone that's looking for the abuse hold, I'm going to be doing that for privates in Texas. I'm also going to put a foundation out in June. So there's a lot coming up. And I work with a lot of people with addiction and mental health. And I work with a lot of people judging themselves, really, like,
Mm,
and getting out of that. And so, I have my own business with that too. I have all kinds of things I play in.
beautiful.
I play in all kinds of things.
Awesome. Well, be sure to send me your website so I can
I will.
include it in the show notes. And thank you everybody for watching now and in the
Thanks,
future.
everyone. Yay.
Yeah.
Thank
How does
you.
it get
Thanks for the
better?
invitation. How does it get any better?
Talk
Bye.
to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.